Okay guys, this lesson is going to be a little bit different. I know that like a couple lessons ago we did, let me actually put this full screen. We did like a 15-10, like a rapid game, and we actually got good games. But let me actually this time just choose 5-5. The downside to playing 5-5 is that there are not many people looking for this kind of match. So it might be a little bit challenging to find someone, but regardless, okay, so we got someone 1868. I'm going to just start. If you remember, 2 lessons ago, I was trying to find someone to play the Vienna game, and I kept getting the black pieces over and over, so I just played a piece defense. Now this time I wanted to play the Vienna, but they get into this sort of more like a Scandinavian, so I just take knight c3, and I'm gonna try to keep it in the spirit of the Vienna. So I'm just gonna do my fianchetto, bishop goes to g2, knight goes to e2, I castle, and then we just play chess. Now, for those of you guys who really want to learn more about this opening, there is another channel that you might be interested in, and I'm leaving the link in the description. And basically, it's a very cool concept because basically it's just following these openings that I provided according to their rating. So from 0 to 400 rating, no openings. Then when you get to 400, we incorporate the Scotch, the Vienna. It's faster games, but you guys might find value in it. And now that I recall, there's one game that goes exactly as this one. So just know that it's out there. Now, back to this game, I'm just going to take it easy. My king is finally castled. So if you learned the Vienna on lesson number 34, you should be able to get up to here. The only thing left for me to finish with the opening is developing this bishop. So let's see if we can make it work. So far, nothing extraordinary. Notice that my opponent is on 1868, so he knows what he's doing. Now d4 or d3. d4 should be better. You're claiming the center, controlling more of the center, but I'm going to keep it in the spirit of the Vienna. Just d3, trying to get this bishop out. Sometimes to e3, you could bring it to f4, or even, I mean, d2 looks interesting here, but let's see. Of course, h3 might be in the air. And maybe this is a good opportunity to just do h3. So let's ask them what they're going to do. Are they going to go back? And that's the case. Yep. Okay, so let me now just go bishop e3. And this is interesting because this h3, you know, it helps us control g4. So that knight is not going to come over and bother the bishop. We already talked about, I think, lesson 111, we talked about the pair of bishops. So if I could keep it, I will. All right, so now queen d2, I finally connected my rooks. So we could say this is already the middle game. Guys, if you make it to the middle game, you're ahead in development, the best thing you could do is start putting pressure. Attack the king or simply bring your pieces to your opponent's territory. So I'm already thinking of knight f4, interesting move. Rook e1 on the same file as the king. But I mean, that's just they're gonna castle anytime soon. So let me go knight f4, and the main idea, okay, I'm putting pressure on that bishop, so I'm going to get their pair of bishops, and if they take, well, I'm also going to get their pair of bishops. So that could be a very nice strategic advantage to outplay this opponent. So little by little, I was just looking at this, and I think we talked about it when we learned the check piece, where there's sort of a similar pattern. So knight d5, if they take, nah. Probably this was better before. All right, so basically they're saying they don't really care about the pair of bishops. Take it. And why not? Maybe we just go ahead and do that. So what if I go knight e4? That would have been interesting. If this knight were in here, I could go knight e4. If the queen leaves, I take and then I take the bishop. If knight e4, they take, I could do in-between move and then I go back. But that's not going to really do much. Well, that pair of bishop, guys, we're going to get the bishop anytime, so no need to go like crazy. Now, let me think. And by the way, try to approach this game as if it were your own game. If I'm in this position, what would I do? What's my plan? What's my evaluation? Candidate moves, well, oh, by the way, guys, now that I said the pair of bishops, I like the idea of bringing the rook to e1. That's a candidate move. Knight h5 is a candidate move. Knight e4 is a candidate move. Even knight d5, because of this idea that it's not really going to do much for us. All right, let me just go with knight e4. Simple idea. I hope that they see this. I hope that they take their time. But now I'm just probably going to go knight knight d6. I don't know if knight f6. Not sure if so if they take, I could take with the bishop, and then I'm still hitting this bishop. Well, let's see. Yeah, so they took. Now, do I do in between and then collect? Or, nah, let me just go here. Let me just keep it simple. Now they have to do something about this. Most likely they just take and keep it simple. But no matter what, hopefully I think we're gonna get a very interesting strategic game here, based on, again, the pair of bishops. And guys, by the way, don't forget, if this is an opening that you really like, that you feel like you want more content on it, let me know in the comments as well, because this is something that we could do more often. I try to do one lesson about opening, one about middle games, one about end games, one where we just play games. So every 4 lessons or so, we should have something like this. And it would be nice to know what you guys want me to play. For today, okay, there you go. So in between move and then take, or do we take right away? Let them spend the move to improve that knight. Okay, let me just go back to safety. Not a big deal. All right, now notice that I could go here trying to do knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, and they get double pawns, isolated pawn on h7. But I'm going to keep it simple again and just try to outplay him with the pair of bishops. Long chat, but it'll be an interesting game anyways. All right, do I take with the pawn? Do I take with the bishop? If I take with the bishop, I gotta be careful with f5. I gotta go back, and then f4 it could be a little bit uncomfortable. Now, if I do bishop takes, f5, what if I go bishop takes, rook takes, g4, rook has to move, and then I get the pawn? Well, that would be interesting, actually. That would be interesting. So I have the choice to just take with the pawn. Nah, let me go with this. Let's see what happens here. And anyways, even if I don't get the pair of bishops, something that I'm gonna get is an endgame with bishop versus knight. Don't forget, when we talked about the rule of simplification, we talked about it's not about what you trade, it's about what's left on the board. So I like the idea of this endgame bishop versus knight. It's more of an open position. And now they gotta be careful with that rook. Now, can I take? Nah, b6 is in the air. All right, let me just go rook h3. This is actually pretty powerful. I have to say, I'm not sure I got I got a good deal out of this, but okay, so that knight is probably coming to d5. Now I could do c4, but nah, that's gonna create a left behind pawn, so they could at some point go after it. I did rook h1 to go rook h3, just sort of release the pressure here. And I think I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, why not? If not, they're gonna have to back up, and then I'm gonna be putting pressure on the h file. So let's see. Yeah, so they just traded. Now knight d5 is coming probably, but they gotta be careful. They gotta be careful with bishop a7. I think I would just do bishop c5 in that case. I don't want to go to a7 and then they sort of trap me, even though I have c4. So something to keep in mind. But we gotta calculate that variation. And also, guys, if you go back to lesson 74, that's one of the most important lessons we've had when it comes to strategy. We learn about, okay, when is the bishop better, when is the knight better? But one of the things that we addressed is how the combination of bishop and rook is generally better than the combination of knight and rook. So just something to keep in mind. I'm between bringing the king over or bringing the rook over. We also had, I think it was a short, where we talked about what pieces should we activate first. So typically you want to activate the pieces in order of value. So the rook is more valuable than the bishop and the king in the endgame. So we activate the rook first, then the bishop, then the king. Now in the endgame, we said in that video that in the endgame, the king is considered to be 3.5 points. So you know that it's a pretty good attacking piece in the endgame. So that's why they give it that value. So my rook is already active. My bishop is pretty active. Next, I'm going to bring my king first. So maybe king g3 was better, but I wanted to emphasize that. Now, something else that I wanted to do is, of course, I get there with the tempo. I'm hitting on e5, but I like something that we have discussed, which is my bishop being 2 squares away from the knight, and we sort of keep it under control. Now d4, don't forget this rook is pinned, so I wonder if I should do, how about bishop d4? Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that, guys. Double check, no silly mistake, active bishop, passive knight, we should have a chance here. So taking, that's just losing. Not only do we get the rook, it's a fork. So that isolated pawn is trouble. And this is something that we talked about a lot. Isolated pawns, they need to be defended by pieces. If they had a pawn on the f-file, they could just do f6, problem solved, but that's not the case. If you look at the white's pawn structure, we don't have really any isolated, any double pawn or anything like that. So now this should be even easier to win because it's not only bishop versus knight, but we're also going to be up a pawn. And guys, I know that I'm talking a lot, but hopefully you're finding value in all of this craziness. And one of the main things that I wanted to emphasize is how we're not doing anything extraordinary. Just simple stuff, things that we have covered in our lessons. That's about it. Now I'm taking with the rook. Of course, if I take with the bishop, I'm going to be pinning myself, but also I'm happy to simplify. I'm up a pawn. I can see already, so this is going to be my pawn, so I can see a pass pawn happening. Let me just activate my king. That's the only thing I need. Okay, now f4. You know, f4 is interesting, but I just don't want to compromise myself. So let me just go back a little bit, because you do f4 right now, and then the bishop is attacked but defended, but then they could do things like this. Just stay away from trouble, guys. That's the only thing you need. Now, what if I go here, knight d5, c4? All right, let's do it. If we trade pieces, if we trade the knight for the bishop, I think this is going to be completely winning. All right, there we go. Don't give him any counterplay. Don't give him anything. And now that I have a dark square bishop, notice how my bishop is controlling the dark squares. My pawns are controlling the light squares. It's like I had my light square bishop as well. So let me see, should I go king? Nah. Okay, let me just go here. Always paying attention with the knight jumps. It's interesting, look at this. Okay, now we got the same pattern. So that means that knight is under control. Now g5 is very, very interesting because it fixes these pawns, but no need to go like crazy about that. All right. Now, little by little, let's see if we can outplay him. Let's see if we could penetrate. I like that the knight is pretty passive. c5 would be hitting my bishop. It's a one-move threat, but then that pawn is going to be fixed on a dark square, always being hit by the bishop. So something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind. Now, a4, a5 is a move that looks interesting. It's going to be one pawn that stops two. g5 also one pawn that stops two. And we talked about that on lesson 60 something. But there's no need to hurry up. I want to make sure that I have, Okay, so I'm going to take here. And the reason is very simple. I'm left now with an isolated pawn, but if they had taken here, that was going to be my pass pawn. If they take the way they did, now I'm going to go b3 and a4. And that's going to be also a pass pawn. Now, king d5 might be in the air. I don't really mind it. I could just go back. And with the pawn and the bishop, I'm going to be controlling all of these. So that king cannot really penetrate. So just something to keep in mind. Also, my king is looking for a way to get in. That's why I didn't want to do g5. So, and now to make things even worse for my opponent, they are running out of time. That knight doesn't have anywhere to go. Should I do opposition? Is it really necessary? Okay, so let me calculate here. a4, pawn takes, king d5, bishop e3, knight e6 check. Okay. What if I just go king g5? Let me just go with it, guys. So we have only a few seconds. I gotta be careful with this fork. So let me just stay away from here. One thing, and don't forget we have the increment. Okay, let me make sure I don't get checkmated. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Guys, we have the increment, no need to freak out. All we need to do is remember that if we do a few moves, we're gonna get 10, 15, 20 seconds back, and then we slow down again. And this is very important. I know that a lot of you don't like to play blitz, but don't forget, even if you play a 1 hour game, you could get into time pressure, and you gotta have experience with this time control. I need you not to be freaking out when you get to 10 seconds. You need to remember you have, ooh, what if I just go? Yeah, I'm going. That's a pass pawn. That's all I needed. Oh, if they get here, that would be checkmate. So I have to be very careful with that. Okay, so how about we do d4 now? This king is tied up to the defense of the pawn. They're going to be in Sux 1 soon. Okay, let me just go around. Now, probably king f7 was better. Okay, you see, I don't want to go here, any checks. I want to stay away from any checks. Oof. No, I wanted to make this work, but no. Okay, one square diagonally from the knight, that's going to be safe. Yeah, now this is just too much. Okay, so this pawn is falling, that's a fact. Okay, now this is just going to go. I don't even want to take the pawn. That's it, that's it. That's it. And we promote. All right, guys, so there we go. That one was pretty simple, nothing extraordinary. Notice how we did not play the Vienna, but we just did sort of the same thing. So Scandinavian, we tried to keep it simple, and then we just kept it in the spirit of the same opening. And again, what I told you back then is all about getting to the middle game, and then we just play chess.